So he's not just sitting there doing nothing. He's sitting and then he does something.
The New American Standard says...
I am not done yet, please. Don't interrupt me, okay? You asked me where the passage was. I'm telling you where the passage was. Also, I had read to you that in Hebrews chapter 9, verse 23, it was necessary then for the copies of the heavenly things to be purified with these sacrifices, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these. The sacrifice going on in heaven. Okay? So I have no problem with the statement that you made in your book that he has to present this finished work of Calvary before the Father, but I would think you would have a great problem with that passage, regardless of the fact of whether it's a different kind of work or not. That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you why he has to present it to the Father if the work of Calvary in itself was perfect and complete. Answer that.
Thank you for the opportunity of doing so. Romans chapter 8 asks the question, who shall lay a charge against God's elect? Before whom would a charge be laid but the judge of all the earth? Jesus appears in the presence of the Father in our behalf. His presentation is not a separate work, as I said. And you ask, well, why must he do this? Well, I'm not sure where else the Son of God would go upon his ascension but to the right hand of the Majesty on high. And I don't know to whom this work would be presented but to the judge, who then, on the basis of that perfect work, says about those for whom it is made, dikaios, just, not guilty. No one can bring a charge against God's elect because the judge is the Father and the advocate is the Son who died in my place. In regards to Hebrews chapter 8, which you brought up, I'm not sure what translation you're using. Could you identify that, please?
New International Version.
Okay, thank you. The New American Standard, which I'm somewhat partial to for some reason, says, now the main point in what has been said is this: we have such a high priest who has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of the Majesty in the heavens, a minister in the sanctuary and in the true tabernacle which the Lord pitched, not man. And my point is that if you're trying to say that the NIV is indicating that there is some sort of extra action going on, I would simply point out that the word minister there is a noun. It is not a passage that says there is some work going on that is separate from the work that the high priest has already accomplished. That's why he sits down, waiting from that point for his enemies to be made a footstool for his feet.
Oh, so he's sitting down then, Mr. White, and he's presenting the work of Calvary to the Father. Is that what you believe then?
I believe that as the perfect high priest who has given himself in behalf of his people, he is seated at the right hand of the Majesty on high, having once for all taken away their sin. And again, I simply emphasize that is not some separate action. That is not some separate work that makes the previous work imperfect.
Oh, well, I think it is. And I'll tell you the reason why. Is because if the sacrifice of Christ on the cross was perfect and complete and once and for all, there would be no need to continually present it to the Father. That's your theology. So why is he... It doesn't make any difference whether liturgicos here is a noun or a verb. The point is that he's a minister in the tabernacle. He's not just sitting down. But even if that wasn't correct, let's just say he's sitting down, and we'll take the rest of the verse out. The point still remains that you said that he's presenting the cross of Calvary to the Father to assure the application of the benefits of the cross of Calvary. So it's a necessity for him to do that intercession of presenting it to the Father to have the effect of Calvary to his people. But that's not what you had claimed earlier. You said the cross of Christ on Calvary was perfect and complete and needed no other thing to be done.
Because that's the work of intercession is not a separate work, it is the same work. Sir, I'm not sure why we're arguing about my theology.
Well, because you're twisting words, that's why.
You're here to defend the dogmatic assertion that the Mass is a propitiatory sacrifice.
Don't get the focus off me. The focus is on you to explain your own words. It doesn't make any difference whether it's a work that's the same or different. The point, in fact, is you say he has to present it to the Father to effectuate the work on the cross. And if it's not done...
I did not say that.
Well...
Where's the word effectuate in that book?
Okay. Well, whatever. Okay, you didn't use the word effectuate.
Context.
No, that's not the context, Mr. White. It's... Okay, I'll read it again for you. Okay? This is what you said.
I enjoy the fact that we keep reading my book here. I just wish it was available. It's not in print anymore.
Right.
So
I hope they go out and buy it and see all your mistakes. He says this, rather the Son intercedes for men before the Father on the basis of the fact that in his death he has taken away the sins of God's people. And therefore, by presenting his finished work on Calvary before the Father, he assures the application of the benefits of his death. Okay? That's what you said. Now, I interpreted that as effectuate. I'm sorry. I think your words are actually more powerful.
I personally think I am the infallible authority on interpretation of my own words, and
yeah, that's your problem, Mr. White. You think you're infallible. Mr. White, could you explain to us the meaning of the passages in the book of Hebrews that talk about the sin of apostasy?
Certainly. The writer of the Hebrews is writing to the Christian congregation. When I, as an elder in the church, stand before the congregation, I have to recognize that I do not have the ability to look into the hearts of men. As I address that congregation, I warn that congregation because I know that since I cannot see those who have truly been born again and those who have not, that I must warn everyone against the tremendous danger of abandoning the gospel of Jesus Christ, abandoning those things that you have been taught and heard, and either going back, in the case of the book of Hebrews, to the Jewish religion because of the pressure of the families that were around them, the things that they lost by going out of the Jewish culture, or whatever else the world might want to attract to us. I have the responsibility to warn that congregation of the dire circumstances that come from not pressing on. That warning that is given out, some people seem to assume, and I guess you're one of them, sir, that means that Jesus Christ only wants to be able to save the uttermost, but he needs our help. I don't believe that that's the case in any way, shape, or form, and I think one of the ways in which he exhorts his people is through the warnings that are provided in Scripture.
Oh, so you're saying that it's not really possible for them to fall away. He just says the words, I warn you.
I'm saying that
Wait a minute, I'm not done.